Welcome to Heroes Rising, hosted by Sifurafael, a master instructor, public speaker, and the founder of Speaking Prowess. Known for his expertise in empowering individuals through the art of communication and leadership. Alongside him is co-host Jose Escobar, an acclaimed personal development speaker, 18-time published author, and founder of 2 thriving businesses, including the Connected Leaders Academy. Together, they bring you dynamic conversations with world-class entrepreneurs, industry icons, and visionaries. Heroes Rising is your go-to source for wisdom, motivation, and unstoppable growth. Join us and discover the hero within you.
Jose, happy Friday, my friend. How are you today?
Wonderful. How are you?
Exceptional. Getting better every day. Just a little bit, you know.
Love it.
I see we have a guest, and I think at one point he just appeared, and I think he may be a hero. So why don't we go ahead and bring Jackson on? Jackson, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today?
Sifu, Jose, I'm doing really well. Good to see you again, Sifu, and great to meet you, Jose.
Likewise.
So Jackson, tell us where in the world are you located?
New Braunfels, Texas, right in between San Antonio and Austin. I'm greedy. I want both cities. So.
There's nothing wrong with greed as long as it serves more than you, right?
That's right.
So today we're talking about resilient leadership, mastering executive success. What does that mean to you, Jackson?
Ooh. Resilient leadership to me reminds me of another virtue, tenacity, right? Getting after it, making the most of opportunities. For me personally, it's the difference between trying to be the best, which is toxic, and being my best, which is holistic.
Love that. Jose, I know you're excited about this topic. Tell me about what excites you about it.
First of all, resilience is a powerful word, right? In itself, leadership is a powerful word. When you combine 2 powerful words in the same sentence, it just magnifies everything, right? So, resilience requires you to have tenacity, grit, perseverance, bounce back ability. You fall 7, get up 8. You know, all these things. That's resilience, right? The ability to keep stretching and not tear along the way, right? Like having a big 2x4, a very long one, right? And putting cinder blocks in the middle. You can bend, but you don't break, right? That's resilience. And then we have the leadership piece. And there's a lack of leadership in the world in general. And I think leadership is something that is required to move things forward in a positive direction. So, and we start by leading ourselves, right? And if we have resilience-backed leadership, oh my goodness, sky's the limit.
I love the aspect of the cinder blocks on the piece of 2x4, and it will bend. But leadership shows us how to put braces on that 2x4 so it doesn't bend, and it can support more than those cinder blocks. And that's why building the foundation as a leader, I think, is critical for anyone who wants to build anything. Foundation is the key ingredient here.
Yep.
Well said.
Guys, this is open conversation, so let's just get into it. Right?
Cool. I'm learning the rules on the show. I don't want to interrupt you guys because you're both gentlemen that have a ton of wisdom. So I'm like, yeah, I'm eating it up, spoonful by spoonful.
Listen, we don't bring people who just want to eat. We want to have people who are going to share. So sure. It's okay to share as well.
Love it. That's easy, guys. Then I love that you guys talk about heroes. It's a big deal. If I don't know if y'all can showcase the brand, you're welcome to, but firstclassbusiness.io, right? You'll notice on there's a superhero logo next to First Class Business. And our tagline, our tagline is, "Hey, Batman, let us be your Alfred." We're coming out with a new image on that. Batman's going to be in the kitchen. All right. Batman's got an apron on. Batman's answering the phone. Batman's trying to wash the dishes. The bat logo's on, like what do you do? You know, too many solopreneurs out there, entrepreneurs, right? Trying to do it all. Guys, I failed the solopreneur route. That did not work for me. I needed a phenomenal team, and I needed a tremendous infrastructure with procedures, resources, and templates so that team was supported and knew how to help. So see, for everything that you said, it's exactly what we stand for.
Love it. Love it. Batman in the kitchen. That could be a different show.
That is pretty strong. And I have a question, Jackson, now that we're talking about that. Can you kind of, I'd love to ask you a question. I might ask a couple of questions along the way, because as we're all chatting and chiming in, I also like to learn too. So I would love to kind of get a feel for the business that you have now, where you're in, how you create revenue and create value for the world. How has resilience been a factor? How have you had to have resilience in your journey of pursuing greatness and all the things that you're after?
Perfect. Let's throw some controversy into that mix. So Elon Musk, right, said a long time ago that starting a company is like eating glass. It takes somebody who's crazy to do it, right? He wasn't lying. If you haven't done this before, you got to be a bit nuts. Then LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, the founder, said starting a business is like pushing a plane off of a cliff and repairing it as it's going down. Right. This is not for the faint of heart. I don't say that to kick people out, but there's too many people out there who want to make it sound like this whole process is easy. It is not easy. This is something that can train wreck your family. It can train wreck your life. I'm an optimistic realist. So when I look at this path, I look at business, I had to learn some very hard lessons. I'm twice divorced, right? Maybe there's some wisdom behind what I'm saying. Maybe there's some realities, things that I could have learned along the way. I've had teams that burnt me, right? Bad investments that I've made. Guess what? I was an adult. I made that decision. It was me who didn't do my research. It was me who pointed fingers at other people until I realized there's 3 fingers pointing back at me, right? And when you're an entrepreneur and you face the resilience and the opportunity for growth, I think it's very important too. We recognize not everybody can do this, but when it comes to easy, the human body is so simple that my 4-year-old can draw it. But it is so complex that a doctor can study it for 30 years and tell you they don't know the first thing about it yet. That is business in a nutshell. It is something that we have to simplify for the sake of maximizing. Yet anybody who tells you it's easy, anybody who tells you that, you can just do this, and that word just is one of the biggest lies in the English vocabulary. We need to be aware. Like, I run from people like that. I'm like, oh no, they're just trying to pull the wool over my eyes. You said there's not enough leaders in the world. I say there's not enough great leaders in the world. There's plenty of wolves in sheep's clothing. There's also plenty of sheep's in shepherd's clothing. All right. What does that mean? That means there's people trying to lead that have a half-hearted truth. But look, if you're a boss babe and your husband has a job and pays the bills, your Instagram may look fancy and nice. But if somebody else is paying for all of that, at least be honest with your audience about it. The same is true of the marketing bros whose daddy's credit card pays their bills. We have an opportunity to be ultra authentic and recognize that, you know what? Authenticity is not about being mean. It's about helping the world realize that there's variables that can hold people back. And if we're not sincere about that, we set people up for failure. But if we recognize those variables and lean into them, then we can build a great path to help people succeed. But we've got to be willing to talk about the things that most people shy away from. That's my thoughts.
Love it. Love it.
You said something, if I may chime in real quick. You talked about just, right? That word just. And it makes it's so, you're right. It's an overused word. It's always thrown in to almost misdirect in certain ways, right? Like, and it's like the word easy, right? There's simple and there's easy.
Right.
Something can be very simple, but it's not necessarily easy. So, and like in sales, I'm a sales guy. I've been in sales, I was going to say 35 years. No, like 25 years. Not quite 35, but 25 years. And we say it's just $9.97, right? It's just $9.97, but $9.97 is $9.97, So, but anyways, I love that you picked up on that, because the word just, and then we look at the other words like easy and simple. It's just the power of words makes all the difference in the messaging that you're delivering to people.
100%. To bolster your point, everybody gets this. We would all have six packs. We would all be super fit if we did 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and walked 10,000 steps per day and ate in moderation. We don't really need workout gurus. I love you guys. Some of you guys do motivate us and inspire us. But at the end of the day, if everybody did that, we'd have a pretty healthy society. It's that simple. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 10,000 steps.
I love that concept. The other thing that both of you had me thinking is, why don't we take back the role that we were meant to have to build our empire? I'm tired of building other people's empire. And everybody's like, you have to do it. This is a must. You give me $9.97 and you'll be rich forever. You're both so right. And when we can start to really develop who we are, who we were meant to be, it's for us to step in and step up and stop hiding because we think we're not worthy. We're worthy. We are so worthy. Thank you.
Huge. Well, it's huge. I mean, when people come up to me at a conference and they become obsessed with what do you do, right? First thing I let them I help people, and they don't get it. They're like, what? Or the ones who don't get it, I know they're not qualified, and that's okay. Most people aren't, and that's okay. I shift them to I focus on the who. We focus on the who. Simon Sinek says start with why. I love the concept. I bought the book twice. I got on Audible as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful read. And it's almost right. It's a good step, but I would have never cared about his book if I didn't like who he is as a leader. So I start with the who. And when people are like, yeah, but what do you do? I'm like already going, I already know you're not the person I want to work with. They're so obsessed with the what and the hows and the what and the hows and the what and the hows. They've got so much fear. Yet if we could take a step back and realize if I work with somebody who is loving, patient, persistent, consistent, and reliable, right? If I find somebody with all of those attributes and absolute dedication to those attributes at the highest level, that person's going to be able to knock all the how and the what out of the park without my involvement. Who is my big key? I love that you said that, Sifu Rafael. I remember that's a title now.
That is a title. A title that was given to me, but one that I filled because the title Sifu means teacher.
Yeah.
And nobody likes being told what to do. So very early on, I realized that if I tell somebody what to do, they're not going to like me much. But if I show them how to do it, then they'll look for guidance. So I think as entrepreneurs, as leaders, we need to stop telling and start showing, which definitely will set us apart from those people you were talking about. Like, look at my Instagram, look at my fancy car. Meanwhile, it's my cousin's, right? Thanks, cousin. Let me take that picture.
Yes.
Or
So sad.
I didn't eat last night, but look at my really cool car because I can't afford the food, right?
Jeez.
I know so many people up the block from where I am right now who have multi-million-dollar homes, but when you go in their house, they can't afford them. They have 4 or 5 jobs just so they can pay the mortgage, and yet they're on the verge of bankruptcy. It's not about the house. It's about where you live. Right. So people want to live in that area code, that zip code, but they're not living their authentic selves. Go ahead.
It's strange to me. I mean, I'm a weird person. Mark Twain said, when everybody's going a certain direction, it's time to go the other way. I believed him. That's kind of what I do. Warren Buffett says the same thing about the market. I don't do trends. I do principles. So it's a weird mentality to me, because it's like, okay, if I want a result that's different than what the masses are getting, which I don't know, maybe everybody wants to have a crappy life. Maybe everybody wants to be stressed. Maybe everybody loves watching news that fills them with hate and anger. Maybe everybody likes the idea of feeling miserable and depressed while posting memes that replace their happiness. I don't know, but I decided I'm gonna take a look at that inventory and say, what do I want in life? I was blessed though. I was the youngest of 15 half and step brothers and sisters. I'm one of the youngest of 87 cousins. And so I watched everybody else growing up. And I was like, I don't really want a life like them. I want a life like these ones, the select few who kind of did life right. I was like, well, I better start living according to the principles and the ways that the people who are gaining success live. And if I do that, then Gary Vaynerchuk says, the people you surround yourself with, the 5 people that you're surrounded by are going to influence how you become. And so you have to sometimes eliminate the surroundings. I'm the apple that fell far from the tree. It's all right. There's plenty of other people to hang out with, plenty of other apples out there who sometimes make, a better environment for us. Sometimes you have to escape your environment, right?
I know Jose wants to say something, but before he does, I'm number 10 of 12. And my family is so huge. When I heard you talk about yours, right? My one of my cousins, his parents were celebrating their 50th anniversary in Colombia. I'm Colombian. And they invited only family members. It was over 500. It was, so cool. I wasn't there, but I heard it was nuts. And when I've met family members, I was in Queens one day, in Queens, New York, and I was at a nightclub, and I met these 2 guys and a girl, and they were really cool and happening and so forth. And, we're at the bar, we're talking and so forth. I go to a family gathering. Guess who I bump into? Them. Guess who they are to me? They're my cousins. I had no idea. So
Careful
you never know.
You never know. You got to do the DNA checks before you get married to people.
That's right. But when we talk about resilience in leadership, it's also family, right? And you talked about you fell far from the tree, but you may have fallen. Hopefully Jose will come back. You may have fallen near a better tree.
Yeah.
Right.
So and I love the tree still, right? I love the tree still. I think it's a huge opportunity for all of us, right? It's like, okay, so I love my father. My father was a wonderful father to me from a distance. He did a lot of great things. He taught me a lot of great things. And he's also one of the most emotionally, spiritually, mentally abusive people I've ever seen. But he wasn't that way to me. He was that way to my step siblings. And that doesn't justify it, but we have a very different relationship because of that. And as I grew older, he got more and more toxic with me too, right? And with others. And so I have a very healthy distance from the man, extremely big distance at this point in life. It doesn't mean I don't love him. It doesn't mean I've abandoned him. It means I've set what's called a healthy boundary. And that's not something I learned until I was about 28. I didn't know what that was. And so hopefully if you're listening right now and this is your first chance to pick that up, right? There's a great book series called Boundaries. It is life-changing and can help you, again, learn to appreciate the tree that I come from and love it, but also recognize this is not the tree I'm meant to stay with. There are other opportunities out there.
Yeah, I love the idea that we don't choose our family. That just because a lot of people say, well, we're family, we have to stick together. but not if it's toxic, right?
Mhm.
Not if it's hurtful, not if it doesn't align with your purpose in life overall.
I feel
And
inspired. Can I share something inspiring?
yeah,
I don't know
please
how
go for it.
inspiring it's going to be for everybody, but I know there's someone watching right now. And I thought I was a lazy kid. All I ever wanted to do was play basketball. All I ever wanted to play any ball, but I wouldn't work. And if I was working, it was because I wanted to date somebody who worked there. Right. I did not have the discipline of work. And so I thought I was lazy. I was told that you might have a kid who's really into Minecraft, right? You might have a family member who doesn't know how to do the things that you want them to do. But I didn't get to where I
Pass
could.
the
I
ball.
haven't done this in years,
Pass the ball. Pass it. Pass
right?
it.
Exactly. So
Pass it.
I didn't get to where I could do this by being lazy, right? Where I could spin a
Mm.
basketball on my finger and talk to you and spin it on every finger on my hand and know that I'm not going to hurt my laptop, right? I've done that maybe 4 times in the last 10 years because I don't play too often anymore. But my point with that, those of you who are listening in, whoever you're inspiring, whoever you're leading, right? Whoever's working on your teams and stuff, especially the youth that you have the chance to influence. I
Mm.
think that one of the things I'd love to see our generation stop doing, or the older generations, all of us to stop poo-pooing on the Gen Zs. Let's stop accusing them of problems, or the millennial. I'm in the millennial, so you're welcome to accuse us of problems if you want to. We can take it. But if we don't learn to recognize the virtues within, right, the younger generations, and we don't learn to support the realities of what they're gravitating towards, we might miss out on major opportunities. I will accept guilt on that with my son, and that I used to give him a hard time for how many movies he would watch on Netflix. I used to pick on him for having Netflix memorized a little bit. And he was struggling with his reading. And we fixed that gap. We worked really hard on that. The teachers helped with that a lot too. There's a lot of people who helped. My son is 11 years old and he reads like 14 books every 2 weeks now, like big books. And I'm like,
Wow.
holy crap, like this kid is really taking off with us. I'm so proud of him. And I know that everything he did prior to taking off with that led him to where he could do that.
Mm.
We have so much opportunity to recognize people's talents and strengths and gifts and not project on them that the way they do life is different, but that doesn't make it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's right.
I love the concept that we have to sometimes give someone space to recognize who they are.
Mhm.
Like your son reading so many books, right? But also maybe it's because you have books behind you, and maybe you're a reader.
Yeah.
Right? So there's an influence that's going on there. Um, I hope everything's okay with Jose. I don't know why he popped off. Hopefully he'll be able to pop back in.
Sure.
When we consider what you did a little while ago, you're spinning the basketball and in one finger, and it's moving around, and you can. So it's very interesting that you and I are very much alike, because when I was a kid, I lived outside. I played on the ground. I spun the basketball. I used to spin it on my elbow, my fingers, all that stuff. And one day I decided I was a terrible shot. And I said, that's not going to happen anymore.
Mhm.
And so I would spend hours shooting, and I would be able to hit the basket from any angle, where it was ridiculous if I missed. It was swoosh,
Wow.
swoosh. It became boring for my friends because they're like, he's just going to hit it again.
Yep.
So then what happened is, so that I would kind of be accepted, I stopped practicing as much.
Mm-hmm.
And now I started to fail so
Yeah.
that I can fit into their mold.
Mm.
My fault was not understanding the gift that I had gotten through that practice. So it happens to so many of us that we're trying to fit into somebody else's mold. And
Huge.
now if I go to hit a basketball, I'll be okay, but I won't be the same as I was when I was 14. I could not hit a basket as well. Don't get me wrong. If you put me in a challenge and you say, you know what, you're going to have to hit many baskets, I'm going to go out there and practice at 4 in the morning.
That's
It
right.
doesn't matter. I'm going to do the work required so I can meet that challenge. But that
George Gervin
challenge is
said it.
not that challenge is not important to me anymore. It was when I started, but then I've acquired other skills along the way.
Correct.
And I realized at one point that my friends will come and go, but my skills are mine to keep.
Well said, man. That's huge. George Gervin, the Iceman, right? One of the top 50 basketball players of all time. Um, he was at the Spurs camp. I got my Spurs gear on today, by the way. And
Nice.
he said, shoot 200 baskets in the morning and 200 baskets in the evening. That's what he did. Right. Shoot 200 in the morning, 200 in the evening. So I went home and I shot 300 in the morning and 300 in the evening. Right. He gave me the recipe. It was up to me to maximize it. Right. That's
exactly
kind of
it.
how I've always seen things is how do I, and it was I probably should have done 400 in the morning, 400 in the evening, because instead of just being a follower, right. I might be able to outpace somebody, but if somebody can do 400 and 400 and your capacity, your best is only 200, don't beat yourself up over that. That is your best. Like do your best, let yourself grow with time. It's not a comparison aspect. So I love that you added mastering executive success into this. All of this applies tremendously. Right before jumping onto this call, I was in a training with my team from Colombia with 2 of my Colombian team members. And the reason why we have 2 present is because of something I learned in a book nobody reads. The book is called Tribal Leadership. It's one of the best leadership books on the planet. And in chapter 10, which you don't want to skip to, but it's right in there, they talk about triads. And triads are meetings between 3 people. And 3 people allows you, one, it's a networking effect that is just a superpower if you're a networker. 2, it allows you to have frictionless conversations because you're not going head to head with somebody. You got a mediator that's constantly there to help. And you can then send 2 people to work on something, but they have an accountability partner in you so that if they get head to head, they can come back and work together with you. It's an amazing principle that thousands and thousands of great companies use. So on that triad effect, here we are. And Luisa, who's one of our podcast hosts for our Spanish podcast, oportunidadeslatinas.com, and Cindy, who's the director of opportunities, they're both there. And I said, Luisa starts saying, Jackson, I want to do this. I want to work on this outreach to the people who've been on the show, but I don't want to do it wrong. I'm worried about X, Y, and Z. And eventually I said, take a breath through the nose. Right. We all do this. I do it too. And so we take our breath. Right. And she didn't. She kept talking. I was like, Luisa, take a breath. And I was like, Luisa, please, I don't want to say, close your mouth. And I was like, that's rude. I said, I want you to take a breath. So she takes the breath, and Cindy and I do too. And then I said, look, breathe for a minute while I talk through this concept. And then I said, Cindy, and instead of addressing Luisa, I said, Cindy, how would you feel as a leader and what might you be doing wrong as a leader if a team member comes to you and is kind of nervous and worried and says, I don't know if I'm doing this the right way. What does that say about the environment? Right. And we had this beautiful discussion together that had nothing to do with our agenda, but had everything to do with amplifying Luisa, who then dove into in past working relationships and past environments. I got shot down. They kind of took away my energy. They wouldn't see me for who I am. And we went into all sorts of depths of what was holding her back from being her best self. And as she finished, I said, and she knows this, but I said, I know you know this, and I'm going to reiterate it anyways. We have full confidence in you, Luisa. We know how great you are and how capable you are, and your entire team has that support. If anybody does that, 1, engage in healthy conflict with them. 2, if they don't support you, bring it back to me. I was like, we're all here to help each other grow. We're here to do that with love. And so what happens now is instead of me getting into the granular details of metrics or whatever basic conversation we wanted to have, no, I focused on making sure my leaders are amplified with their greatest strengths so that they can move their mountains. As an executive, my job is to get out of the way and empower the people.
Yeah, I love the fact that you asked her to take a breath so she can also reflect, right? To listen. Because sometimes when we are having that negative, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, we don't give the space to say, wait a minute, I am good enough.
Yeah,
I can do this. I can, I I am here for a reason.
that's
You
right.
believe in me for a reason.
That's right.
And so many of us, we're afraid to ask because judgment plays a huge role, especially in the executive suite, if you will, because they will think that if they think I'm less than, I may not have a job.
I have a good news though on that one. If
Go
they
ahead.
think you're less than, you don't want that job. It's
That's
time
right.
to put your 2 weeks in. It's time to plan your exit strategy, right? It's time to look because there are companies out there that are loving and supportive. And one of the greatest lists to help with that, they're not all perfect at it, but the top 100 places to work in America. If you're still in a position where you want to build somebody else's vision, where you're still incubating in that process, I built a lot of people's visions before I built my own, right? And I wasn't quite ready. And I leveraged that opportunity, sometimes unethically. Sometimes I was like, I can't wait to leave on my own. When I was younger, and I was like, I just want to climb this corporate, I just want to climb this ladder and be the greatest there is. We all learn as human beings to learn how to play nice and how to have etiquette. Babies don't come out saying trick or treat really cute. They learn how to say trick or treat once they realize how much candy goes in the bag. It's like, oh, cool, this thing works. Over
Mhm.
time, we learn to pay attention to virtues. And I don't know what all triggers that, but I'm just super grateful that certain environments, certain people triggered me to realize, man, these virtue things work a whole lot better and bring a whole lot better feelings in life than the vices do. The vices
Mm,
hurt eventually. They might feel fun at first, but you want to be a taker in life. Eventually, everybody's going to take everything that you got. Be a
mhm.
giver.
Well, think about what happens to us on our last day. What could you take?
Hmm.
What you could
Right.
do
Who you
is
are.
give, is give.
Hmm.
You can only take the love that people are sharing with you,
That's right.
those around you, right? But we can't take anything on our last day. I mean, we can take a drink, we can take some food, we can take a hug, we can take a I love you.
Yeah.
But I think what winds up happening, and if you have the wrong people present on your last day, they're going to be the takers who are going to say, what are you giving me now that you're not going to be here anymore?
Hmm.
Where's my reward for being here with you today?
Powerful
So
stuff.
there is a lot of takers in the world. But what would happen with a world where we had more givers? Don't get me wrong. As a giver, you also have to learn to accept because you can't just give, and have
Hmm.
nothing coming back. But we need to also have gratitude when
Yeah.
we do get something back. So the give and take, there
Love
has to
that.
be a balance, right?
There's an opportunity for it, right? So Sifurafael, my best friend and I, we did this road trip. It was back in our MLM days. I think in 9 months I made about $8, on this venture.
Don't you
And
just
so,
love element?
oh, gotta love it. I learned a lot. Learned a lot of knowledge, right? That's
Yes,
what
you
it gave
do.
me. And so there I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we needed to get a bus from one convention center to another, and we didn't have any cash on us. And so I'm looking for somebody to help. And there's this rundown, ultra dingy car. Like it looked like they lived out of the car. It was just, like I was not going to ask them. And they saw us looking around confused, and they're like, "Do you need any money for the bus?" And I said, "No." And my best friend hits me in the stomach. It's like, "Hey, stop!" And I'm like, "No." And then they gave us a surplus of cash. They ended up giving him like $7. We needed like 75 cents for this bus ticket. And I'm like, no. And he, once again, he might as well put his hand in my mouth. Like, he's just such a good leader. He stops me, and we start walking away, and I'm getting ready to scold him, you know, and I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing taking money from, he said, Jackson, he said, my dad taught me a long time ago, if somebody wants to serve and give, allow them the opportunity to do that, or you're robbing them of the opportunity of serving, and you're discouraging them from serving and helping others. Oh my goodness. That changed my life.
I've shared something similar with people who go to somebody's house and somebody offers them coffee, tea, water, crackers, food, dinner, whatever. And people usually will say, no, thank you. They're being polite.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, you took away the opportunity for the other person to show their gratitude for you being in their home.
Yeah.
And that especially happens in Chinese culture. I do Chinese Kung Fu. So anytime when I would go to my grandmaster's house, his wife would have this big thing. I think it was bigger than this of tea for me, right? It was this big thing of tea. And it was like this. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of tea. And whenever I came in, she would offer it to me. I never said no.
Right.
And she was so happy. It was just, she could have given me a little cup. No, she gave me this huge thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But can I tell you, when my grandmaster saw me take it, I can see the smile on his face because I did not turn his wife down and say, no, thank you. Meanwhile, he and I just came from eating. On the way to his house, he said, we have to stop and get food. And so we pull up to this restaurant in Chinatown, and they're leaving. The place is closed. They see my car. They know who I am. They know who he is. They whistle. All these guys come out. The restaurant gates go up. They open the whole place just for him and I. And we eat this incredible meal with tea and food and all kinds of stuff. We get to his house, and you would imagine that I am full.
You're just full.
But I do not deny her the opportunity to serve me.
The honor.
And the smile on his face was like, I honor you. So
you honored her.
Okay, he honored me because he said,
both, right.
You know what he said to me? Now we train.
Now we train.
I am full, and now I'm training with him, right?
And you honored that. I'm assuming you honored that as well.
Of course, I'm never going to say no to training. I love to train. Every day of my life, I train. And if somebody wants to train, I'm never going to say no to that. But when we can acknowledge another person wanting to give, your friend was so dead on and so right that it was that lesson that his grandfather taught. Was it his grandfather or his father?
His dad, but we can give granddad credit too.
It probably came from generation to generation, right?
Probably.
When we consider that we pass down some knowledge, right? But if your friend turned around and said, we just take, your take would have been different. You probably would have felt horrible.
True.
But when he explained it to you, that triggered a feeling in you that probably has remained, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The memory, it's a long time ago. And so I love that you share that, because how often do we mislabel, right, our experiences? And I think the big challenge on that is to learn to let go of good and bad. In a lot of instances, good and bad does not have to do with the incident at hand, right and wrong, right? Who's right and who's wrong? Most of the time we're facing subjective realities. Most of the time we're facing somebody's opinion. That was the last thing Luis and I talked about today, as she expressed how it's, as a perfectionist, it can be hard to and have your idea turned down. And so I said, let's do me a favor. Let's try in the future, Luisa, to look at your presentation, what you're presenting and what somebody else might be presenting as two different colors. What you present is red and what they present is yellow. Both are wholesome and great. And if you're going to an event where everybody's wearing a yellow dress, then maybe it's important to go with a yellow dress. But maybe the person advising you wants you to wear a red dress so you stand out. Right. And so neither one is wrong, but there's a context to the opportunity. And if you can learn to see other people's views as simply a different shade of color, then you'll no longer feel challenged when you present your colors to people.
I like the color scheme or idea, the thought that I might present something to you, and for me it's yellow, but for you it could be blue, it could be red. It's how you interpret.
I'm colorblind too, so it works out.
Look at that. Wow. So I understand that colorblind people can't see blue.
Blues and greens are difficult for me. They get mixed. Blues, greens, purples, sometimes even reds can get mixed into that. So I am a very small sense of color blindness. But it's not uncommon for me to say that color is blue and everybody else go, that is totally green. I'm like, no, but that's green over there. Like, that's green and that's green too. And I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for it. My grandpa would buy purple cars and purple cowboy hats.
Really?
He had no idea. That was royal blue to him.
He was colorblind too?
He was more colorblind than me. I could see that it was a purple truck. It was hilarious. His purple hat was awesome. His purple pants were great.
Incredible. So Jose texted me his internet went out. He lost power. And it's not weather related. So finding out if he can get back in. Meanwhile, what I'd like to do is share an infomercial from Jose, if you will. Take a look.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
It's a great tribe that Jose runs. So earlier you talked about a book based on tribe leadership. And you were talking earlier about working with two women, Louisa and I forget the other lady's
Louisa and Cindy.
Cindy. And they're in Colombia?
Those two are, yes.
My mother country. There you go.
Pereira, specifically.
Oh, that's exactly where I was born. Look at that. Tell them I said hi.
I will.
So you're running a Spanish podcast and an English one, am I right? You're running two?
We have a number of podcasts.
Okay,
Those are the
very
two
cool.
primary ones that we tend to talk about. Is Vision Pros Live, where we interview visionary leaders about what they're up to in the world. And that's anybody who wants to come in and talk about how they're serving. It could be a stay-at-home mom who talks about the vision of raising children. That's a beautiful message that I think the world overlooks. Right? It could be somebody in government. As long as they're willing to come in lovingly, right, with that patience, persistence, consistency, and reliability, we'll invite them back. But what happens is sometimes the visionaries come in and they stand in front of the cars they don't own. Right? They do whatever they can to get on that stage. They're usually not bad people. They're just misguided in terms of how to be effective. And so we will thank them for their time, tell them how, the support, whatever was honorable about what happened, and we will move them on. Right? We don't we don't want them coming back. They're not ready
Right.
to lead at the next level. So
Mhm.
I have another podcast that we just launched coming into the new year. The new podcast is called the Be Your Best Show. So if anybody goes to the beyourbestshow.com, you'll see the prologue on there. And we're going to do Diary of a CEO style interviews on that. And we're talking 90-minute to 3-hour interviews where I talk to
Wow.
leaders about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you're not willing to get in the bad and ugly, you do not need to be on the Be Your Best Show. That is all about exploring the variables, the realities of what it's like to actually be in leadership and to actually strive to be your best and to actually win or lose in business. We needed a stage where I can do that without accidentally offending guests by asking them pointed questions about their assets. It's hard. You're interviewing somebody and you're like, okay, so you published this book a year and a half ago, or even 6 months ago. And so far you've only got 2 reviews on Amazon on the book. What happened with the launch? Man, people get so mad about that. My audience is thinking it. My whole audience is going, what? Like they're promoting a book that their mom wouldn't even leave a review on? I'm like, yeah, it's hard. So I learned that I need to be more respectful of the visionary stage where they're just trying. They're still trying to figure it all out. And we can support the holistic side of the vision while one says, like I said, taking the best of the best, asking them to come on to Be Your Best Show and continue the conversation. So those are 2 of the shows that we have.
You reminded me of Clint Eastwood when you said the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Because basically, you're getting down to the truth, right? That's really what,
Yes.
if you think about that movie, it's the truth about who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that don't sugarcoat it with nonsense because you're going to be found out. So
And
I
you're
like
going to
that.
hurt people. You're going to hurt an
Oh,
audience.
yeah.
Right. And that's what's happening is these people are, again, I fired a client a couple years ago now. They had 500,000 followers on
Congrats.
Instagram.
Mhm.
And thank you. And they were one of the poster children for Kajabi. I'm only going to narrow it down that far. But I got into behind the scenes, and the sad thing is some of these, entrepreneurs look like they have the best piece of real estate there is, but you walk into the house, you find out there's no foundation. They don't even have a kitchen. The back wall is gone, right? They don't have anything that they're portraying a lot of times. And so this person's making less than a janitor's salary. And that's okay. They weren't lying. Like they were walking a thin line with what they were promoting, how well they were doing. But what struck me was they went to this event in Italy, led by a company based out of Russia. No, nothing against Russians. No, it just is what it is. But in 4 days, they shot an entire year's worth of lifestyle photos with fake money and all sorts of fashion material, etc. She's lying to her entire audience. I'll narrow it down one more time. Whoops. But about what she is representing to them, and they're all following her hook, line, and sinker, believing that she's getting rich on this, and she's hardly staying alive with this process. And so there's a lot of people who, in one way or another, maybe not that blatantly unethically, are lying to their audiences. But I think we have to take an inventory on how authentic are we willing to be, because what single moms out there are following her and paying for a program that's never going to work for them because it doesn't actually work for her.
Doesn't work for her.
Golly, like we have a responsibility to step up as leaders and be better than that.
It's very interesting because when I do my research, when I do stuff like that, I come across a lot of, look at what I have, look what I can do, and I'm like, next. I'm like so tired of that, because it's not, for me, it's not look what I have, but look what I can give. Right. So we're talking about givers and takers, but so now a lot of people are like, oh, I get it. Now I got to give a little, and then I'm going to get a lot. So a lot of people are now giving free workshops, free this, free that. And then at the end of the workshop, Jose earlier said the $9.97, but that's not even it anymore. It's more like $29.97, whatever it is. But then when you get to that, the value is not that, because they enticed you with this little bit of greatness, but then when you actually paid for it, I've had a lot of clients get burnt by stuff like that, and I applaud you that you fired a client, because I fired several myself because
If I don't fire
they
them, they fire
lied.
me pretty fast. It's not
Right.
hard.
Yeah,
It's not hard. The
right,
Tom
right.
Brady's in the world are few and far between. And
Mhm.
the, you know, there's a lot of coaches in the world, but there's very, very few great coaches. There's a lot of providers in the world, but there's very, very few great providers. If you're going for greatness, then you've got to recognize that, wait, if we're living in a world where 96% of business owners fail within 10 years and 4% survive, they're not thriving. They're surviving it. And then out of those, you got to look at, well, wait, what percentage of those are actually winning and have repeated success? And which percentage of those did it ethically? We're talking about a very, very small, minute few. And so the reality that, you know, Jose's promotion, good on him, like for what he's moving towards and how he's moving towards what he's going towards. I don't know what his promise or guarantee is. I have one guarantee on mine. It's there are no guarantees. I might die tomorrow. You might die tomorrow.
That's right. That's right.
Right. There is no guarantee. And then I really hate the contract that's so common in businesses right now where they're like, and don't worry, if you don't succeed, we will stay with you until we suck the life out of you for the rest of your life. Right. If they didn't succeed, go away because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to help. And so there's so many toxic twists to almost great principles. And we as human beings, we've been blessed with a mind, we've been blessed with a heart to start to think through, how do we evaluate these situations? How do we not stick in the agentic state that 90% of people are stuck in and do things based on what others say? No, I got a program almost identical to Jose's. I wish him the best. I hope he wins. Maybe 1 + 1 = 11, right? Maybe we end up combining forces on everything. The beauty of my program is it's 100% free. Anybody can come into it and get my clients within 3 to 4 weeks are in tears, crying because they've never seen or paid for something as powerful as what we give for free, no matter how much money they've paid. It is the coolest experience that I've ever been able to create with and for people. And it has a lot to do with that abundance mentality, right? Being able to step up and step in and serve people, as you mentioned, without being a taker, being a giver, but setting boundaries on that and realizing if we've got takers, well, we have conditions, systems, limitations, word choices, realities that, no, if you wanted us to do it all and we see you at the beach every day, we're going to call you out for not working in a very nice way. And we'll help you see, okay, you're a CEO of this company. Where's your job description as CEO? Oh, you don't have, well, we need to see what you have because we need to see that you're the type of leader who we should be supporting. And where are your KPIs? What's a KPI?
Oh my gosh.
Now at this point, yeah, maybe
If they don't know what a KPI is, they're not in business.
and some of those are the best clients we have because they go, you know what? Everybody's told me to just do all this stuff, business planning, pro formas, executive summaries, talk about this and that. And I let them finish their whining or explanations of why they're doing all that stuff. And I say, you know, again, you're on the path that everybody's losing on by doing that. You're not even qualified to write an executive summary. You've never run a startup before. So if somebody told you to do that, they're probably trying to sell you the idea that they can and will do it for you, but now they're taking control of your vision. And that's not healthy or helpful either. So maybe you should find somebody who helps you focus on your actual strengths, who helps you move into your opportunities, and who protects you from your weaknesses and threats and is able and willing to talk to you about that boldly and honestly. That's an effective executive. This book that is my mouse pad is one that almost nobody that I talk to has ever read, yet it's Warren Buffett's, Bill Gates, and LeBron James. It's one of their top 5 favorite books, all 3 of them. I've met even less people who actually implement the book. Most
Which
people
book is
that
that?
try to read it. This is called The Effective Executive by Dr. Peter Drucker. It's a very, very hard read. And what's harder is actually applying it and being willing to do the things that it says, like realize 20-minute Zoom coffee meetings are ruining your life. Busy is broke, my friends. You got to learn to be productive and profitable. That's where the power is. Busy is just broke.
Busy is for people who, for me, if somebody is busy but not productive, they're just shuffling papers around, right? So for
Or
me,
social media posts,
well, there you when you consider what we've been talking about is mastering the executive success.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody says, well, I'm not an executive. I'm not going to wear a suit. I'm not going to do this.
I'm not
But
an
it's not
executive.
the, I,
That's easy.
it's not the internal that people are focusing on. They're focusing on the external when it's truly the internal
Right.
that's going to make you the executive. There's some shows that I don't wear a suit. I'm just wearing a t-shirt too. It depends on the show. So I show up a little bit differently and people maybe take the show a little bit more serious. But
Correct.
I am so and I love
Keep
the
going.
fact that every day I am in different outfits. I'll start in one outfit 1 minute. Oh, look, you're throwing on your jacket. I love it. The next minute, I might be in a kung fu uniform. After that, I might be in a workout outfit. And then after that, I might be in a suit. But for me, I love the feeling I get when I put on a different suit, a different outfit, whether it's a kung fu uniform, a workout apparel, or even swim trunks. I love swimming. I love running.
Mhm.
I love doing all these different things. But it's not the outfit that makes me passionate about what I'm doing. It's the internal
Right.
that makes that happen for me.
Well, you bring up a phenomenal point too, Sifurafael, and that's that the outfit often empowers the role, right? And so many people think their role is their identity. Thank you, Sandler, David Sandler from You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike in a Seminar. Wrote one of the best chapters of any book ever, chapter 1, where he talks about your R versus your I. And he helps people see that you're going to fail at your role on occasion, right? You're not going to be a good dad in all moments. You're not going to be a great businessman. You're not going to rock the stage and always hit an A+ or a grand slam home run in those environments. And if you associate your value with that role and that performance, you're going to have an up and down life and emotions. But if you recognize that your identity is separate from the roles that you perform, and your identity is associated with intrinsic value, meaning you are perfect the way that you are. You are valuable beyond belief. There's no price tag that can adequately dictate or determine how valuable you are. Then it doesn't matter if you did bad or you did well. Your value stays the same, and you can stay constant in how you show up in the different roles with which you participate in. I love the way you wrote in the book. That was even better than what I said.
So let me ask you, how did it feel putting on that jacket, even though you ran over and got
You know, it feels really good because it's nice and cool. And and no, it puts that strength on your shoulders too, right? That's almost like a reminder to sit up straight, on what you do. And so I appreciate it. And it's fun to wear it in workout clothes. I got my like designer pants on too, and the workout style. And so it feels a little awkward. It feels a little like, man, this guy just ran off a podcast and grabbed a coat. That's the point. That's the authenticity. That's I love who I am. I love
show
what
up
I do.
as who you are,
I
right?
love what the ability to help people see the world from a completely different paradigm. And now I've got 5 team members, still more joining on the Zoom call right now. We've got about 15 who will join into that, I think. But they're all in the background while you and I are on the StreamYard session. And I'll jump over there and spend a great time in what we call level up, calm down. Level up, calm down is our meeting where it's late enough in the day to where everybody's taking care of anything that's kind of stressful, or any fires that might be burning. But even if they haven't, during this particular meeting, everybody comes in, not allowed to talk about stress, not allowed to talk about anxiety. We might karaoke during it. Usually we go through like a talent show. What happened this week? Who are you grateful for? How do we work together? It's a great feel-good meeting for an hour and a half to make sure that everybody's going into the rest of their Friday empowered, excited, relieved, and grateful for being a part of everything that we're up to. Like the goal of this Friday meeting. So
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for all your impact that you shared with us. When I say impact, when we speak, the words we use are going to impact another human being listening to them. And you brought up so many different ideas and concepts that somebody can start to say, I never thought of that. So I appreciate you doing that.
love it.
And
Hey, look,
we're at the top of the
we're
hour.
right
So
at the time, aren't we?
I know, right? So what I'd love to do
We'll
is
always
go ahead
get
and
by.
put your information. But also what I'd love for you to be able to do, Jackson, is tell us what can somebody expect when they go to your two websites going across.
My hope, number one, instead of expecting in life, which leads to a vice of heartbreak, transition from expectation to aspiration. What can you truly hope for? Powerful virtue of hope, right? What you can hope for and what you can bring to the table is love. That's what we want. We want you to be able to love to work with us. We want you to be able to love yourself. We want to connect with leaders who appreciate that value and want to work with a team who shows up with that type of power. So you come to Vision Pros Live, be our guest. If we see that you're the loving leader who's going to be an awesome guide to those that we work with, then we'll be excited to connect you with everything that can help you. My number one principle or rule for our work is we do what is best for the person that we serve. That includes you. If you're engaging with me, I'm going to show up and do the best that I can to serve you.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you, my friend. What an incredible show. I'm sorry that Jose lost power. We had another person who
God
was
makes no
supposed to be with
mistakes. We'll
us
be all right.
without a doubt. And Tristina was going to be with us, but she texted me and she lost power.
Oh,
So, but hey, you
thank
know
you
what?
for having me.
There's more opportunities coming. I'd love to have you on again. Do me a favor, hang on while we say goodbye to everybody. Everybody share this show with somebody because somebody needs to hear today's messages. Thank you, Jackson. Great, great time, my friend. Hang out. Everybody, have yourself an exceptional rest of the day. Take care.